Good news, moviegoers. Russell Crowe's new movie, his thriller Unhinged, we knew it was going to have a release date of July 1st. They're going to go ahead with it. So this is the first chance to see movie theaters get a brand new movie to go see when movie theaters are reopening. And we already saw that New York's getting the reopening. California's getting some reopening now. We're going to start seeing the movie theaters start coming back. And with that, we see a lot of cinemas getting their stock prices jumping up a bit, which I actually a little bit of stock off of there and getting lucky off of that. So that might be a little thing you might want to look at yourselves if you're looking to get on a gamble a little bit when you can't go to Vegas right now. The inside story, the first bold bet to get you back to the movie theater. Fast Company talks about Unhinged. It will be coming out July 4th weekend. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So now, this is the first movie we're going to see in 2.5 months that's being put in widescreen release to theaters. Now, there have been others that have been limited release that have gone to drive-thrus and things like that, but really nothing that's made any significant money, nothing that we've had out there that was going to make, that actually put some real money behind it with real star power. That didn't go to Netflix. But this movie right here has got a chance to do it. So in the film, Russell Crowe plays a man who goes to a very dark and scary lengths after a mom, played by Karen Pistorius, leans on her horn at him in traffic for a little too long. The movie is directed by the director of American Dreamer and the Joneses, Derek Borte. And the movie was formed, the company, Solstice, is going to put out the movie. It's formed in 2018 with a mission to produce, finance, and distribute a slate of 3 to 5 mid-budget films a year. And it's been backed by $400 million in funding. So this is kind of a relatively new company that's going to take a gamble to the movie theater to see what they can do about this movie. But again, they got some big stars. They got a big star behind it. So let's hear where it goes. So here's what we got. This is the first test as a company for Unhinged. It's the first movie they're putting out. What a risk, but what a gamble. I'll tell you what, very brave on behalf. I really do appreciate that. So now, the company is run by President CEO Max Gill, an industry veteran who was formerly president of Miramax Films and Warner Independent Pictures. And here we go. So now the movie was set for release on September 4th. But then we had to change. The pandemic came in place. And then also, A Quiet Place, which was a sequel to the original movie, Quiet Place 2, was moved into the same weekend as Unhinged in September. So they said, we're going to move it. So rather than sit back, wait things out, and hope for the best, Gill dove into action, talking to John Fithian, president and CEO of the National Association of Theater Owners, and conducting some in-house research. He switched things up. And he said, you know what? We're going to be the first movie to come back after coronavirus. July 1st. So what's traditionally been the biggest movie-going weekend of the year, one that's typically reserved for blowout summer blockbusters. So with no Quiet Place 2 and no other competition, this is what's got to be thought about. I do believe from all the stories I've talked about here on When I'm Not Podcasting and the Broadcasters Podcast, there's a good chance that this movie is going to do very well. And then we're going to see people come back to the movie theaters. Now, we're not going to have that full-fledged box office, but there's a chance to get, if you can at least get third or a half. The banking on this is when you have movies coming back, movie theaters coming back, they're going to have them staggered. I think what they're going to do is they're going to have to go ahead and put the movies out on different screens. So basically, they might get to use like 3 or 4 or 5 screens in a movie theater to run the movie, because they're going to have to constantly clean other theaters that are being used, other screens. So if they're juggling the screens throughout the day to run a movie all day long, and they don't have any other movies to run except older features, there can't be that many movies you're going to have available. So the thought of coming to this movie, it's going to be like the old days where we didn't have the Cineplex that had 7 to 8 different choices. But if the movie theater has a couple of choices of new movies to watch, then we'll go watch those. That's actually not a bad idea. You can bring back a couple of movies that came out from March or April, or some other ones that have a chance to get limited release that they're going to get just to get seen when you didn't expect you would. But a new widescreen release to see if it works out for them and then for the others is an important thing to have happen. I want to see this work. I'm banking for this to work, and I want to go see it myself. Now, here's what we got. This movie company's daring pivot offers the first glimpse of how one movie studio is approaching the biggest threats to the entertainment industry and its history. Now, here's the thing: AMC Entertainment, AMC Theaters, they were all talking about, oh, there is a report that with their upcoming estimates coming up, their financials for the first quarter, that they're going to say they're going to lose about over $2 billion estimated and profits. But then the thing too is that they're also trying to put out that there might be substantial doubt that the company can survive coronavirus. But something's going on, because I know for myself, the stock price hasn't dropped. The stock price has actually continued to go up pretty consistently. And that goes for every cinema. All the cinemas today, as I record this episode, they all went up significantly, 15, 20%, which is good. There's something to be said about that. People really are banking that the theaters are going to survive this, that there was enough time to get the theaters back open, to get those theaters back up and get people coming back to the theaters, because people are going to want to go out. They're not going to want to go so out to much of the bars. They want to go somewhere where they can actually see entertainment, sit down in like a seated theater type of feel. I think people are going to want to go ahead and do that. Being stuck at home and not having anything to do and having all the, accommodations done for you. I think really, to me, when I see the reports and I see everything else that's being said, I really feel like people are going to feel comfortable. If people are comfortable going to church, they're going to be comfortable going to a movie theater. I really believe that. Because if people feel like they can do that, then why not be able to do something where they can be entertained? It's that idea. And obviously, I don't think anybody's really saying too much about the coronavirus right now. We're seeing all the protests and all the other things that are going on. I don't think that's going to be too much of a concern. I think people are willing to go back out again. And if they can go to a movie, they might will. It really just matters about what movies are going to be enough for people to go out and say, okay, we're going to go. Because the first one's going to be, this one is the first approach. It's the risk. You're going to throw it out there, see what happens. And again, if it doesn't happen the first week, it's going to have some time to go and roll out. But again, it's the first movie that is going to be put out there, taking a big risk, a big gamble. But if it doesn't, and then I'm going to do another video later on this week about the old movie industry and the movies that are going to come out after coronavirus now that we're going to get to see, especially Tenet, because that's one movie we're going to talk about mostly. That is going to be the big blockbuster that hopefully will get things started off. That is the first big movie with a big budget that's going to come out after coronavirus. And there's a good chance that it might be enough. And people are just banking. Movie theaters are especially banking that people will go ahead and make the trip to the theaters for that. My only thing I don't know about this yet is when my subscription to my movie theaters start coming back. Is it still going to be suspended, or am I going to get to use it? I don't know how that's going to work. So I want to find out about that. I don't know anything about that yet. So I don't know if any of those subscription plans are going to come back or not, when they're going to be executed once again. And when they know that all the theaters are open, will the program come back up, and what will we get for it? Those are all good questions. So anyway, this is one of the biggest threats to the entertainment industry in its history. It marks the first new theatrical release since the onset. By deciding not only to march on, but to run full throttle into the storm, because the idea is they're already running commercials for it. July 1st is the target date. We are 3.5 weeks out, and they are already ready to go. They're going to try to bank on it. It's a July 4th movie. Will people go out to go see it? I'd like to think they will. If it's possible to go see theaters, go to the theaters where you are, and you're willing to go past the capacity, wear a mask, or whatever you're going to do to go and watch the movie, you will. Because I know I will. I'm with it. I'm supporting my movie theaters. I love my movies. I want to go back to go watch them again. So now, Gill and company hope to prove that there will indeed be a safe way to return to the movies, and that people's desire to leave their homes and experience a form of visual escape will start paving the way for a new return to some kind of normalcy. So this company really did try to consider, could we wait till next year to go and put this out, spring of 2021? But then they saw other studios delaying their film release dates. Everything was looking crowded. And on top of which, theaters' plans so far are to operate between 25 and 50% capacity in order to allow for social distancing. So Gill looked at the summer. He saw that you have Christopher Nolan's Tenet and the live-action remake of Disney's Mulan, which are late July. The coast looks clear before then. They're going to have 3 weeks to go ahead and make their money on exhibition. when there's no other competition to go against. So he picked up the phone, talked to the guy Fithian from NATO. And his first question is, will theaters be open? And if they are, what are their plans to make it safe for people? So Fithian goes through safety precautions. There will be a chessboard seating chart whereby people who don't attend together are separated by empty seats next to in front of them. And for the most part, that's easy because most of the theaters now, at least for Regal and AMC, I know you got to select your seats. So they can easily block those off. And I mean, unless they have to do something to go ahead and block the seats themselves. Now, you'll also have staggered show times to avoid crowds of people coming and going at the same time, touchless pay methods, and prepackaged concessions. Now, I hope that doesn't mean they're going to do that to the popcorn. Oh, I would hate that. Now, Gill threw out the idea of releasing Unhinged, which was a $33 million movie with the budget that they had for production, July 1st. So the idea was offered, and he offered to talk to theater owners to gauge a reaction. When he got back to Gill, he said theater owners were unanimously supportive of the plan and had played along to the three-pronged approach to reopening and creating a system in which they could back up to playing blockbusters. Unhinged could be the movie that brings movie theater goers back. That will be a legendary moment, and that movie will be recognized for that, regardless of how good it is. So people will watch that just for the historical component. So the idea for theaters now is to first roll out older films when they reopen, then gradually start playing mid-budget films, Unhinged, before getting to Tenet and Mulan. And then satisfied that theaters were going to address safety concerns, Gill then wondered, will anyone be willing to go? To answer this, Solstice went on their own and conducted a survey of 1,000 moviegoers, asking them if they would be willing to go see a movie theater in early July. He expected 40 to 50% say they were game. Now, we've seen conflicting surveys. This one said 80% said yes. I'm in that 80%. So then Gill says again, they said that first they could see things being better by then in terms of the pandemic, but people are also dying to get out of the house. So we decided to go ahead and be the canary in the coal mine. Now, the other thing also is that the movie was just a little over $30 million. So to take a chance at this, why not? I mean, that's the idea. When do you have an opportunity like this? It's hoping that the moviegoers really want to come back. And I don't see why they wouldn't. I like the idea. I really do. And then he also asked he looked at surveys about what types of films people would want to see back and theaters coming back. Those were at the top of the list. So, some people look like romance, some like horror, but the thing people are most looking forward to are thrillers. The reason why is because when they're good, they really pull you in, grab your chest. You can figure about all the problems of the world. They're emotionally engaging and take people on a journey, and they offer a little relief. So we don't know how many states and how many theaters are going to come back up, but the story is right now, even though that is the month that some of the movie theater chains, including AMC and Cinemark, are targeting reopening, states like Florida, where theaters have been given the green light to resume business, so long as they keep capacity at 50%, not all theaters are operating as they continue to work out safety precautions. Major metropolitan areas such as New York, San Fran, and LA, the problem is there's just no movies to put out. If there's no new movies, I don't think there's a need to put out the theaters unless you have new content to put. You need the new widescreen releases to start opening the theaters. So I think opening it July 1st in time for this movie and then going forward is a good, smart deal. I think it's very smart. Now, major metropolitan areas like New York, San Fran, and LA will be the slowest to grind back in action because they've been hit a lot, mostly by the lockdown, I would say. But again, Gill says, quote, there are so many unknowns as far as to how many theaters will be open, how many will go, but it's not for the faint of heart. So go big with Unhinged, get the movie out there. Russell Crowe looking like some deranged freak looks great. That will get people going. Let's see what goes on with it. And they are putting out TV and digital promotions. They're already promoting it. Because I'm going to tell you, when I was watching wrestling tonight, first thing that really caught me, I was like, whoa, in theaters July 1st. Wait a minute. And I was like, okay, good. Thank God we're getting back to movies. I missed that. Because seeing everything on digital video is only enough. It's going to be nice to go back to the theaters again very, very soon. I can't wait. Now, After Solstice announced the date for the change of the film in May, they got 210 million media and social media impressions that first week. And the film's trailer got 28 million views, 5 times than what they expected. So there we go. Now, some people were saying that the protests and the riots might also affect, but we might get past that by July 1st. I would think at least at some point we're going to get to some kind of a semblance that everything will be calming down, some toning down of all that. Because, I mean, most riots like these cannot go more than a month. I mean, the kind of momentum you need for that has got to be tough. But again, if it gets people off the grid, Russell Crowe puts out a featured film. Let's see what happens. That's great. Great news. Unhinged in theaters July 1st. I'll see you there.